Yeah, you found the HillBilly Voodoo channel. Today on HillBilly Voodoo, we're going to combine the best properties of all of these machines into one to build the ultimate pick and place, move stuff around type of contraption. Stick around, see what type of HillBilly Voodoo we have to do to create this project.
Now this here's kind of the inspiration for this whole new project. This is my hydraulic helper. It's an old Bobcat excavator. I use this thing to do a lot of the more heavy work, like moving transmissions around, differentials, packing logs. I think it does more actual packing and maneuvering of stuff than it does ditch digging. Now, this machine is great for that, except it is slow, very slow. Like, crawling is, I think, about 3 miles an hour or whatever the hell it is. So to get from one end of my yard to the other end of my yard takes a long friggin' time. And you can only pack with what you have in the bucket, right? Like what you squeeze in the jaws is what you can pack with it. There's quite often times when I need to go somewhere in the neighborhood here or somewhere up in the bush, and I need to pick something up and move it. And yeah, you got to load the machine up on the trailer, take it somewhere, take whatever you need to load, put that on the trailer, come back, unload. It's a process. So my whole idea here is to create a machine that I can use to pick, pack, and place. Kind of like a forwarder in a slightly smaller package. We're going to try to kill two birds with one stone, or, well, no, I wouldn't even say that. We're going to go even more ambitious, and we're going to get stoned and fly like a bird. So what do we need to start with? Well, I'll show you a drawing of something that I'm kind of thinking might work for us.
Now what I'm thinking here is kind of a machine based on the best parts of different machines that I've built over the years. Now I have the articulating mini loader that I've built. I like the fact that it bends in the middle, makes it super maneuverable. So this machine is going to be articulating, and I kind of want the back end to have some type of arm crane type thing that I can lift things up and put it into the back. So let's start out here. Now my subscribers have been watching the videos for the last little bit of me acquiring parts and building parts. So we have built some big beadlock wheels. We've got a transmission out of Sportage, and we're going to build our pivot in the middle here. So we'll have the engine and transmission up in this area here, box back here, some type of crane type idea or arm that we can lift stuff with. Now this is going to weird some of you guys out. I can see some of your subscriptions to my channel, and then I go and I look and see what you guys are subscribed to. Yeah, it's kind of like stalking, kind of weird, eh? But anyways, I can see that many of you are subscribed to the same type of channels that I'm subscribed to. Kind of weird how minds think alike. But anyways, this, you probably have watched the Russians and their weird contraptions, hence the Sherp that I'm building, and this is going to be kind of based off of their articulating four-wheeler quad type ideas that they have, where you're sitting here on your chair and the front of the vehicle's here and you got to steer. Pretty sure that some of you that are watching this right now are totally knowing where I'm going with this. I'm going to try to make this thing as versatile and usable in my yard as possible, and fast enough, maybe 15 miles an hour or something, that I can transport things around with it, and it'll be faster than the excavator, it's not going to lift nearly the weight that the excavator does. Like most of the stuff that I'm currently struggling with, I could probably lift myself, but only do it once. Things like differentials, these big tires, logs, such things like that. Like things that you could probably lift once and you would be pretty much done for the rest of the day. So now, to start out with here, we're going to build the chassis. We're going to get the rolling, everything kind of mapped out idea. And then we will decide what we're going to do for like the lifting and the grabbing and all that other stuff later. Got a squirrel trying to get in my shop here. Anyways, squirrel, yeah. So, first off, we're going to start out with our center pivot here. Now I've already started building this. Like everything else that's being built around here, it's going to be made out of ground titanium, the junk that we have laying on the ground. And we're going to try really hard not to spend any money on it. So let's actually get to this. I'll show you the pivot that I've built here already. And we're going to go from there. That's enough yapping. Let's just start doing something. Now this here is what I've come up with for our center pivot. This is a spindle off of the 1-ton Chevy that we've been stealing parts off of for other projects for a long time. I've cut the hub down, removed a whole bunch of weight off of it, took the brake rotor, all that other crap off of there. So we're pivoting here on the actual spindle itself. Now I've built a kingpin that is way more robust than the ball joints and stuff that held this spindle in place. So this is going to be the center of our whole contraption. We're going to be able to turn on these two bearings. That'll be pivoting that way, and this will be pivoting that way. You guys kind of understand what's going on here. If you're kind of sort of lost, you can go back to the video that shows how I built, or what my mini loader is built out of. If you're subscribed to the channel, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, well, you guys are totally missing out. You should probably subscribe. And for all of those of you that have unsubscribed from the channel, well, too bad, so sad for you. You're totally missing out. Now, from here, we're going to build the front end of our machine. From this direction forward is going to be the front. So let's go. First, I think we're going to do is cut some plates that we can bolt these bearings to, and then start building our frame from there. So what are we going to need here for a piece of steel? Looks like we got 8 inches there. So if we find something that's 8 inches, or maybe something that's around 16 inches, so we can cut 2 plates out of, that we can start mounting things to. Let's go dig around the piles of ground titanium here and see what we can find. Well, big piece of angle iron there. That's a potential candidate, but that's pretty long, and if we don't need something that's more than 16 or more than 8 inches, then kind of a shame to cut that up. We could hammer out that ring and cut some pieces out of there, but I'm sure there's better candidates in here somewhere. Well, there's another piece of angle there. That looks fairly long. That's 16 and a half inches, so I think that'll be our candidate right there. We'll chop that in half, and then we'll have 2 plates to mount those bearings on, and and we can go from there. Okay, now that we got our 2 plates cut out of our ground obtainium there, we got some holes poked in them to bolt our bearings on. We can start building the front half of our frame off of these plates. So I guess we could probably move this big, huge, heavy lump of steel out of the way for a while and continue building the front end of the frame. Now, in the episode where I built my beadlock rims, I did a whole bunch of math and measuring, and I determined that the frame was going to be 35.5 inches wide. So in one of our recent ground obtainium hunting trips, I found a whole bunch of pipe. So let's go up and check and see if we're going to be able to use this pipe for what we think we're going to be able to use it for. Now what I've ended up getting here is a whole trailer load full of well pipe. Not well casing, but the pipe that goes down inside your water well that you suck water out of the ground with. Was replaced because there's a few pinholes in it here and there, and guy was replacing his pump, so yeah. Now, before all you web wheeling wannabe chassis builders start yapping about poo pipe and tubing and the merits of all this, yeah, well, you can log on to your web wheeling sites and you can all hold each other's peepees and dance around and tell me about why I shouldn't be building out of it, but I don't care. Yeah, it's got galvanizing on it, so I'm going to have to grind that off, but I've built a lot of different machines out of exactly this type of pipe. And I can tell you one thing, every single one of them is still out there running around, and I can tell you a lot of things about chassis built out of chromoly or ERW that are big folded piles of crap now because they didn't hold up. But anyways, we're going to leave that whole discussion all alone. Let's grab one of these pieces, take it down to the shop, and start chopping things up. Now this here's the differential that we're going to be using for the front. Now you're going to say, hey, that's not a steering differential, that's a rear differential. How are you going to do this? Well, it's going to be articulated, remember? That's where it's going to steer. This is out of a Toyota Tacoma. At least I believe that's what it's out of. And we've done our measuring. We've knocked the brakes off the end of it because we're going to use kind of a central brake idea. And we really don't want the weight out here if we're not going to be using it. So we've done our measuring and our mathing and all that stuff, and that's where we've come up with the 35.5. The edge of the frame is going to be there. So let's bust this piece of pipe down into some more manageable sizes. We'll cut, well, let's go with 3 pieces, probably around, I don't know, what do you say, 38 inches to give us some choppy on either end kind of thing. Just get it down into pieces that are more manageable, and I'll show you why we need them more manageable after I cut it down. Now that we got that pipe broken down into smaller chunks, got it mounted up here in the lathe, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to clean it up. Looks pretty scabby, pretty rusty. Wouldn't really be good for anything. Yeah, but we're going to clean that up and we're going to use it. Now for all you bourgeois people out there drinking your bottled water, I'm not going to tell you what well this came out of that feeds a bottled water plant, but guess what? That's what you're drinking. Ha ha, suckers. Anyways, let's clean this up and make it usable again. Okay, does that look slightly more usable now? There's a few little pits there, here and there in it, but by and part, no more galvanizing on it, no more icky rust, no more hippie water. Now let's go build a chassis out of this stuff. Now, I've been told I'll have more viewers on my channel if I show you guys some almost naked chicks. Well, there they are up there. You guys are kind of weird, but anyways, if you're into naked chicks, then yeah, there's some naked chicks for you, you icky freaks. There's the progress so far on our chassis. I'm building it upside down, so yeah, it's upside down. Anyways, I don't know why I have not built a tubing notcher by now, because I do a lot of work with pipe or tubing, and notching and cutting and bird smouthing them with just a grinder or the cutoff saw is kind of a pain in the butt. So I think maybe on one of my one of my plans or ideas here is going to be to build myself a notcher of some type. Anyways, we got the majority of it kind of seshed out here at our mounts for our pivot. Now all this will be beefed up and braced up. It's just put together now so that I can kind of figure out where everything is going to be mounted. The differential will be about here so that we can have enough room around the pivot area that we can walk in, where the tire should be somewhere around this area here. Yeah, it's coming together pretty good. Not too bad for a bunch of crappy old well pipe that nobody wanted. So let's stitch this piece in here. I already got one made for the other side that I can stitch in there. Finally bought myself a new welder. This is by no means sponsored by Arc Captain, but there it is, an Arc Captain welder. I sure hope all you guys out there that have been touting these welders and showing them off and all this stuff on YouTube aren't just a bunch of douchebags being paid for their opinions. That's one thing you'll never get on this channel, guys, is somebody giving you a good review on a product just because they've been paid. There's nothing worse than taking somebody's advice off of, well, pretty much anywhere, and then finding out that the product they're endorsing is garbage, and you're stuck with something because you listened to somebody else. Anyway, so I'm going to keep poking away here and try to get the front end of this chassis to a point where I can flip it over. Well, I think I'm at the point here now where I'm gonna figure out where and how high I want the differential mounted on this chassis, frame, whatever it is. There's some things I want to point out on a Toyota differential to those of you that are thinking about using them for your projects. Now the differential that we're using, like I said before, is out of a Toyota Tacoma. Now, Toyotas are awesome. They are light, they're strong, removable third member, easy to shorten if you want to do that. But there are some issues with them. And like any issues, a lot of people don't want to point those issues out to you. Especially if you're buying a used differential off of somebody and they're trying to maybe, scam you. Or maybe not trying to scam you. But anyways, if you are buying a differential, you're going to look and see, is it leaking? Is it grindy? Are the gears spinning freely and all that stuff? One thing you're probably not going to look at are your spring perches. Spring perches right there. Now, if you're looking at a Toyota differential and your spring perch is covered in oily dirt, there's a reason for that. These spring perches trap mud and dirt and all kinds of stuff in there that promote rust. Yeah, they rot the differential tube right out. This side is not rotted right through, but the other side was. You won't notice anything except for an accumulation of dirt and grease and grime and stuff around the spring perches. If you got a good nose, smell, yeah, it sounds weird, but smell the spring perch. You can smell the gear oil
starting to seep out of the thin metal before you can actually see it. If you look really, really close, it's starting to seep a little bit right here. Remember, most of these Toyota differentials are 30 some odd years old, so people asking $1,200 and shit like that for a used Toyota, they're out to lunch. Yeah. The pirate website, yeah, completely out to lunch. Before you go out the valley with your lunch money and talk the Spooky Duke off about buying the differential, look around. Auto wreckers, you're not going to pay that kind of money for it. And this is something that nobody is going to tell you about, is the leaking gear oil. Now, I knew that this differential was leaking. That's why I got it for almost nothing. This can be fixed. This metal right here is paper thin right now. The other side had holes punched right through it. They were rotted right through. It was leaking. So I have fixed this side, built it up with weld, ground it down flat, nice and smooth. If you are using this for an off-road vehicle, rock crawler or something like that, it should be perfect. You will warp this tube. When you build that up with weld, it will warp the tube, guaranteed. I don't care how good a welder you are, how careful you are, what you do. You weld a chunk that wide by halfway around that tube, you're going to warp it. Eventually it will eat your bearings. Eventually it will eat the splines on the end of the shaft. If you're rock crawling, chances are you're going to bend this differential first time you go rock crawling anyway, so don't worry about it. If you're running on the highway, that's a different story. So that is one thing about a Toyota differential that probably nobody else is going to tell you. And believe me, I use Toyota diffs for a lot of projects, and this is definitely not the first one that I've come across that has right underneath that spring perch. Now, you won't be able to see it usually. You'll be able to see the telltale signs, the oil on the perch, the smell, but you will not be able to see that. Now, if you have a Toyota truck and you have recently had problems with the truck dog tracking, or your leaf spring or your U-bolts loosening off, that is another huge red flag that your U-bolts are squeezing that spring perch and that super thin rusted out metal down thinner, and that's what's loosening your U-bolts off. And chances are your whole spring pack has shifted once that thing has loosened off, and now you'll be dog tracking down the road. If you look at this diff, it doesn't really look that scabby and crusty, but paper thin. You can actually kind of hear it, how thin it is compared to there. Something to look out for, guys. Now, I think this video is probably getting a little bit long, and this is obviously going to be a many part series of building this. I don't even know what we're going to call it. The ultimate four-wheeler, the ultimate forwarder, the mega quad. Yeah, you guys got a name to come up with? Leave it in the comment section. I think we're going to leave this video here. So until next time, guys, use what you got, even if it's a rotted out Toyota differential, to make what you want, and I'll see you later.